Hey Richard, I've put together this short video to help you get started with your VINNO portable unit. This is a VINNO6, but all of the VINNO portable units are exactly the same in terms of their functionality and how they work, and also the keyboard and touchscreen layout. And this unit as well is using the same probe as what you've got, so I think you'll find it pretty much exactly the same as what you're going to be dealing with. So while the unit's turning on, I'll run through the keyboard and the touchscreen and show you where everything is. As you just saw, the power button turns it on, turns it off. There's no special shutdown or startup that you have to do, you just press it once. These buttons up here, they'll change the brightness at the particular level of the screen. So you slide them to across this way, for example, to make the top of the screen more bright, and usually we keep them in the middle unless there's something that you really want to highlight. Right underneath that is the general gain, so that'll adjust your brightness. Turn it to the left and it'll decrease the overall brightness, and turn it to the right and it'll increase the overall brightness. All of these buttons down here are going to give you different modes for your imaging. M mode stands for movement mode, PW stands for pulse wave mode, CF is colour flow mode, and B mode is your normal imaging. So I'll show you what all of those look like at the moment. I've just turned it on and it's come up with the musculoskeletal preset, as yours should have. It's basically programmed so you don't have to manipulate anything really, and you should still get a very clear image. I've set it up as musculoskeletal. The frequency and all that should be spot on for you, but I'll show you some of these things, and there might be some patients that it's going to be quite helpful for changing a frequency or something like that. So while we're talking about modes, let's just turn on M mode and put a bit of gel on the probe, and you'll see that with M mode turned on, it's going to give you that image over time. Pulse wave picks up flow, and it picks up the velocity of flow as well, so you'll be able to hear that sound, and you'll be able to see the extent or the speed that blood's flowing in the blood vessels, for example. This little section here is where it's going to pick up the sampling area from, so you can move that around using your trackball. Okay. Colour flow you would have seen. Colour flow will pick up the flow within a blood vessel. So for example, if I just bring us back to normal B mode imaging, and I pick up a couple of veins and arteries here, and I turn on my colour flow, you'll be able to see the blood flowing through all of those veins and arteries. If you're on the musculoskeletal presetting, it should be set for fairly low rates of flow, but if you find you're getting a lot of extra colour like we are at the moment, you can do a couple of different things to optimize it. You can turn down your gain. So gain in colour mode won't change your screen brightness, but it will change the sensitivity of the unit to colour flow. See how it's not giving us all of those artifacts anymore? The other thing you can do is you can either decrease your PRF, and that'll give more sensitivity to lower flow. So if you're finding that you're not picking up flow, like for example if we were looking at a finger vessel, for example, and we're finding that we weren't picking it up unless we had that right down, or you can turn it up if you're finding that it's picking up too much and you're getting a lot of artifact on there. See, if I turn this back up now, it's only picking up now that flow that's within those arteries and veins. Looks like only within the arteries actually. So change your PRF or change your gain if you find that you're getting too much or too little colour flow Doppler. The exact same goes for power Doppler. Only difference between power Doppler and colour flow Doppler, power Doppler is a little more sensitive, and it's not sensitive to direction. So it's only going to give you that yellow colour, and it's really good for picking up that neovascularization within tendons. So typically for tendons you're going to put on your power Doppler, not necessarily your colour Doppler. So that's the main difference between those two. Pulse wave we already talked about. Tissue Doppler, tissue velocity imaging, and continuous wave are all cardiac functions, so I wouldn't worry too much about them at the moment. They're not going to be enabled with a musculoskeletal probe like your linear probe. 4D is exactly the same. You need a 4D probe for 4D imaging. The other one that you can see here is B. That's our normal imaging. So every time I want to get back to normal imaging, I hit B. Harmonic imaging, turn it off. You'll see that it's not quite as clear, the image. So harmonic imaging basically is a computer-based algorithm that picks up the speed of sound through different tissues and it smooths it all out so you get a really nice clear image. If you're doing injections or you want to pick up acupuncture needles, for example, that's the only time I'd turn off harmonic imaging because it tends to smooth out the needle and makes it a little bit more difficult to see. So harmonic imaging off for dry needling, on for pretty much everything else. Hit here if you want to bring up a cursor. That little button's marked cursor there. MD line, it gives you a line down the image, not particularly useful for musculoskeletal imaging, so I'll turn that off. This ROI is region of interest. That'll only become relevant when you've got, say, pulse Doppler or colour flow on, so let's turn that on. Region of interest, without it switched on, you can move your box around to pick up a different sampling area. With it switched on, you can change the size of your box. So that's region of interest. Let's turn off the PDI. We'll just go back to normal imaging. Auto, press that once and it's an automatic optimization feature. Turned on now, turned off now. Have a play with it. Sometimes it improves the image, sometimes the preset's good enough just by itself. Hitting measurement will bring up a whole stack of different measurement options. So for example, at the moment we've got distance. Move your cursor, let's measure, from up here, press enter, measure down the line. It's going to give us our distance measurement there. You could measure across again. It'll give you a second measurement right underneath. Other things you can do are area. Say you wanted to measure the area of something. Hit enter, trace around the area, enter again, and it's going to give you that in centimeters squared. You can also, you can get a little circle going. All of these things are customizable, so you can press the config and you can pick up whatever you want. You can put that in your normal menus for, say, musculoskeletal, add or remove items using the touchscreen. You can have distance, volume, depth, angle, areas, all sorts of different stuff. So that's up to you. Whatever you want to put in there or not put in there, you can do that. So let's get out of the measurement menu. If we'd had our measurements up there still, I could have hit clear and that would have taken them all off the screen there for us. Enter we've already used for, say for example, doing our measurements, our distance and that kind of stuff. This button here is called steer and it changes the angle of the sampling volume for Doppler. That's going to be not that important for musculoskeletal imaging, but just to give you an example of how it is used, if I unfreeze this image, I'm just on my carotid artery at the moment, and you can see that there's a slight angle in the way that it goes across the screen, not much of one, but a little one. So if we were doing colour flow on this, and I wanted to change the angle that the sampling box is on, I just turn it there and you can see it just changes the angle a little bit, so it's a bit more sensitive to picking up that flow in the direction once I've done that. So that's what steer's for. You probably won't use it very often. Back to normal imaging. This button